On my 75th birthday, my son pulled me into the car and told the driver to take me to the mountains, saying it would be my last birthday. When the car stopped, my whole body trembled, not from the cold, but because I recognized the person behind the wheel. People love to romanticize sacrifice. They say it builds character, that giving everything for your children is noble, and one day, they'll see it, appreciate it, and maybe even repay you with love. But they're wrong, completely wrong. And today, at 75, I'm finally ready to say just how wrong they are. Before we go on, subscribe and tell me where you're watching from, because this is the kind of story you'll remember exactly where you were when you heard it. There's a saying that a mother loves you when no one else will. I believed that. I believed that if I lived for my children, if I gave them everything, I wouldn't end up alone. I thought old age would come with warmth, care, and voices saying, "Mom, we're here." But there comes a day, just one, and after it, you wake up and see the truth. I woke up in the same house where most of my life happened. It's old now. The paint on the fence is peeling, but it's home. This is where I raised 3 children, where I waited for my husband to come home from work. The air used to smell like fresh pies and Grisha's cologne, the same one he wore since college. Now, all that's left is silence and the ghosts of what used to be. 2 years ago, Grigory Pavlovich, my husband, passed away. His heart gave out, just stopped. Since then, I've lived alone. I'm not complaining, but it's not easy. The youngest, Mark, calls sometimes, usually when he needs something. "Mom, can I borrow just a bit? I'll pay you back Friday." My daughter Svetlana calls once a month, always rushed. "Mom, I'm overwhelmed. The kids, school, you understand?" And Dennis, the oldest, hasn't really been in the picture for over a decade. He's a lawyer now, with expensive suits and a wife who fits the part. We tried to reconnect once, but something was already broken. And now, here we are, 75 years old. You'd think someone, anyone, would say, "You still matter, you're still here," but no one does. We're here, that's what I always imagined I'd hear. Instead, I turned on the kettle, brewed myself some coffee, and sat quietly by the window. The garden Grisha and I once planted together was already fading. Frost had finished off the last chrysanthemums. Outside, it was gray and lifeless, and somehow I felt it in my bones. Something was about to happen. Then came a knock at the door, so sudden I flinched. On the porch stood Mark. Snow clung to his hair, melting into his coat. "Happy birthday, Mom," he said with a smile that still held a trace of the boy he used to be. My heart, foolish and worn, fluttered anyway. No matter the years of silence, exhaustion, or disappointment, he was still my son. "You're early," I said. "It's not even 9. He shrugged, said he wanted to catch me before I went anywhere, before I could make plans. But I could tell. He wasn't just here for coffee. His eyes darted, hands buried in his pockets, and his voice had that forced calm I recognized all too well. Me, Sveta, and Dennis, we talked," he began. "Thought maybe it's time you had a break. Did something special for your birthday?" I asked. "Like what?" He said there was this retreat in the mountains near Sosnovka. Quiet, peaceful, good air, a place to rest and clear my head. I didn't say a word, just held my coffee still and listened. At 75, you learn to hear what's buried under the words. I already understood everything. "So, how exactly do you picture this?" I asked. "It's all set," he said. "The car's on its way. The driver's reliable. He'll take you, show you around. If you like it, you can even stay the night. It's all on us." "And who's coming with me?" I asked, already knowing the answer. "Well, we all have things going on, but he'll take care of everything. It's really just for you, so you're not alone today." He smiled, but his eyes didn't. I asked, "And when will I come back?" He said, "Whenever you want. In a couple of days, maybe? We're not making decisions for you." He glanced toward the window. That might be him now. A car horn sounded outside. I walked down the hall to the mirror, looked at the woman staring back. 75, wearing the same coat Grisha gave me for my 40th birthday. Hair pulled neatly into a bun. Nothing fancy, just kind. I'm the kind of woman neighbors call a good grandma. The kind who's always kind, always there. "Mom, you're not mad, are you?" Mark asked gently. I turned to him and looked. Really looked. Standing there was a grown man I once carried under my heart. I was in labor for 24 hours. I ran myself ragged when he got sick at 6. Worked 3 jobs just to send him to college. Gave him my pension when he fell into debt. "No, son," I said quietly. "I'm not angry, but I wasn't calm either. I was something different now, awake. A woman who finally saw everything for what it was. When I stepped outside, the car was already waiting. A black Toyota with gleaming headlights and spotless tires, like it hadn't touched slush, but rolled straight out of a showroom. Next to it stood the driver, a man around 60, salt and pepper hair, clean coat collar, back straight, hands behind him, calm, composed. Ryan Morozov, Mark had introduced him earlier. "Good morning, Lyudmila Alexeyevna," he said with a polite nod. "Happy birthday. I'll be taking you to the resort near Sosnovka." He opened the door like a gentleman. Mark helped load my overnight bag into the trunk, just in case I decided to stay. How thoughtful. Then, as I settled into the seat, I heard it. "Take her." He said it quietly. "It's her last birthday." Like I was no longer a person, just a problem being handled. He didn't mean for me to hear, but I always did. I've always known when my children were saying things they hoped I wouldn't catch. And in that moment, I understood everything. This wasn't a gift. It was a farewell. They had decided I was a burden, too tired, too old, in need of rest. They found a retirement home, signed the papers. My children, the ones I gave my life to. I looked out the window as my house faded behind the curve. The same house where I ironed shirts, decorated Christmas trees, and sliced birthday cakes for Svetlana's little parties. Mark was probably already on the phone, letting the others know it all went smoothly. The driver said nothing. The ride was steady, silent, no bumps, no snow, just smooth surrender. "Ryan Morozov?" I asked, watching him in the mirror. He nodded, and suddenly it hit me. That voice, those calm eyes, those straight shoulders. I remembered. Frankfurt, Germany. It was 1994. Back then, I worked with the Red Cross, helping wounded soldiers. One of them was just a boy, shot in the stomach, barely hanging on. No visitors, no one waiting for him. He lay there, caught between life and death. The doctors had no hope, but I stayed by his bedside for 4 days, speaking to him, holding his hand. He drifted in and out of consciousness, calling for his mother, terrified of dying alone. But he made it. I left soon after, and never saw him again. Now, sitting in the back seat of this silent car, I looked at the driver through the mirror. "Was that you?" I asked. He met my gaze and nodded. "Yes, Lyudmila Alexeyevna, you saved my life." His voice was the same, steady, but carrying a faint tremble. "I never forgot you." He added that my son hadn't known who I was to him. He just hired a driver. I just happened to be nearby. Then came the twist. "The truth is, I've been keeping an eye on you. Not in a bad way. I just always knew one day I'd want to repay what you gave me." I didn't know what to say. My chest tightened, but not from fear, from something else entirely. "You knew about my husband?" I asked. "Yes," he said. "I knew about Grigory's death 2 years ago. I knew how your children have treated you. I know about Mark's debts, Dennis's scams, and Svetlana's fraud." I froze. "You know all that?" He looked at me through the mirror, his eyes steady, unflinching. "Mark owes 30,000 to a bookmaker, another 20 to a drug dealer. Svetlana's been pocketing money from fake charity drives, pulling funds from donation accounts. Dennis registered shell companies, commits tax fraud, cheats on his wife, and books hotels on his client's dime." I sat in silence for a long time. These were my children, the ones I raised, carried in my body, believed in. But somewhere deep down, I had known. I just didn't want to know. "And today?" I finally asked. He didn't hesitate. "They paid me 5,000 to take you to the Sosnovka care facility. The paperwork's done. Suspected dementia, loss of control. While you're there, they'll sell your house, empty your accounts. Even your wedding ring is listed for inventory." My hands clenched into fists. The coffee I drank that morning turned bitter in my memory, like ashes on my tongue. "But you're not taking me there, are you?" I asked. "No," he said calmly. "We're going to my cabin by the lake. It's quiet. No one will find you there. You'll have time to think, to decide what comes next." He glanced over and added, "And what comes next can be anything you want, even revenge." We drove north along an endless highway, passing through empty villages, bare birch trees, and rain-darkened signs. The road stretched into the horizon. There was no destination on this path, no return, just silence, just him, the man I once saved from death. I stared out the window, but my thoughts thundered inside. "Ryan, why are you doing all this?" He was quiet at first, then said, "You were the first person who stayed with me when I was dying. Not because you had to, just because you couldn't leave. You weren't a nurse or a relative, just a human being." He turned his head slightly. "In the 30 years since, I've seen a lot. I've watched people break, families abandon their elders. I've seen how even the closest ones can sell each other out when the price is right. But you weren't like them." His eyes returned to the road. "I survived. I came back. It was hard. But every year I wondered, where is she? How is she living? I didn't owe you anything. But conscience, it doesn't ask for permission. We turned off the highway. A small wooden sign read, Lakeshore, 4 kilometers. Your children think you're a burden. That sending you to a nursing home solves the problem. But they miscalculated. Because you're not alone. I didn't respond. Far ahead, I saw water glinting through the trees. Wide, gray, heavy like a sheet of lead. Beyond it, a line of dark pines. And there on the hill, a small house, light gray, with a chimney. We pulled up to a wooden gate. Ryan stepped out and opened it. The car rolled over gravel into the yard. Welcome, Lyudmila Alexeyevna, he said. Your temporary command post, if I may call it that. The house was simple. A wooden table, a fireplace, a chair with a warm plaid blanket. Bookshelves lined the walls. History, psychology, military memoirs. On the table sat a laptop. The screen showed spreadsheets. I stepped closer. What is this? I asked. Financial trails, he replied. All of it. It's about your children. Ryan's voice was calm. I didn't just watch. I prepared, because I knew, sooner or later, you'd realize things couldn't go on like this. He returned from the kitchen with 2 cups of coffee and set one down in front of me. They're drowning in debt, caught in lies, hiding rot behind suits, fake smiles, and those familiar words, Mom, don't worry. I can prove everything. I sat down, eyes fixed on the laptop screen. Mark, dozens of wire transfers to shady accounts, loans, mortgages, hidden debt. Svetlana, small withdrawals from the classroom fund, fake donation reports, falsified receipts. And Dennis, more serious, shell companies, offshore accounts in Cyprus, 0 taxes, legal fictions. You've been collecting this? I asked. Yes, Ryan said. 20 years in intelligence, the skills don't fade. As I stared at the files, only one thought echoed in my mind. This wasn't a mistake. It was betrayal. Cold, calculated, intentional. They signed the documents, he continued. Tomorrow they would have had you committed, stripped of your rights. The house has already been valued. It's listed for sale. I took a sip of coffee. Tell me, Ryan, can this be stopped? He nodded. It can. The real question is, what do you want? I didn't answer right away. For the first time in decades, I didn't have to. I didn't need to explain, justify, or rush. I could just sit and think. The house was warm. The fireplace crackled gently. Outside, the wind howled, harsh, northern. I want them to understand, I said at last. To know I'm not some broken toy. Not an ATM. Not old furniture you shove into storage. I'm their mother, and they crossed a line. He nodded once. Then tomorrow, we begin. The next morning, I woke up completely alone, and for the first time in years, I wasn't afraid. No anxious waiting for calls, no worrying about Mark's debts, Svetlana's latest crisis, or Dennis's endless messes. I woke up in my own rhythm, free from their voices, demands, and manipulation. The kitchen smelled like fresh coffee. Ryan was at the laptop, typing with sharp precision, like a surgeon. When he looked up, there was no doubt or pity in his eyes. Nothing in Ryan's voice held pity, only respect. Good morning, Lyudmila Alexeyevna. Ready for the real part? I sat beside him. He handed me 3 sealed, printed envelopes, each signed. What's this? I asked. Official letters, he said. 1 for each of them. Inside, a proposal. Their final chance. I opened the envelope labeled Mark. Mark, by the time you read this, you'll know I'm not where you plan to send me. I know everything. Your debts, the drugs, and the fact that you tried to get rid of me. You have 48 hours to transfer 50,000 rubles to the account below. If not, copies of documents linking you to criminal activity will be sent to the police, the DIO, and your creditors. Your choice. Mom. I read it aloud, slowly and clearly. Every word landed like a nail in the coffin of their belief that I'd always forgive, always endure. Svetlana's letter was no softer. Sveta, I know where the money went. The donations for the playground, the fake collections at church, and the falsified reports. You have 48 hours to send 25,000 rubles. If you refuse, I'll send everything to the tax office, the prosecutor's office, and the parents' chat. Choose wisely. Mom. Dennis's letter was the longest. He was the lawyer, the partner, the one with a reputation to protect. Dennis, I have everything. Offshore accounts, fake clients, personal transfers from business funds. I'll forward it all to the tax authorities, the bar association, and your firm. Or you can transfer 100,000 rubles and learn to respect the one who gave you life, your mother. I looked up from the letters. This isn't blackmail? No, Ryan answered calmly. It's a choice. They tried to erase you, your will, your freedom, your home. You're offering a quiet exit. No courts, no shame. But if they refuse, you don't stay silent, and you have every right. I nodded. And how do we send them? Courier mail. Signed delivery. By tomorrow afternoon, each one will have their letter in hand. And then, I asked, we wait? He smiled. We prepare the second wave. He pulled out folders, each marked and ready. Prosecutor's office, tax authority, bar association, federal oversight, school committee, media outlets. What is all this? I asked. Ryan replied calmly. If they refuse peace, this goes out, through every channel, all at once. No time to explain, no room to lie, nowhere to hide. I asked, and the journalists? He pressed a key. A headline appeared on the screen. 3 children attempted to declare their mother incompetent to seize her property, but she outsmarted them. It's about you, about them, and about the woman who finally stood up. I stared at the screen, and suddenly, I felt it. The fear was gone. I wasn't some discarded old woman. I was a woman who came back. The next morning, I woke early. The weather had changed. The lake sparkled under the sun, the sky clear, the air sharp and pine-scented. I sat on the porch with coffee in hand and knew I hadn't woken up as a victim. I was a threat now. Ryan stepped out with his laptop and a thick folder. Everything's sent, he said. Couriers will deliver the letters today. By evening, your children will know, and they'll start to panic. I smiled. Genuinely, for the first time in years, he handed me an old mobile phone. This is the hotline. For them only, the numbers in their letters. All calls will be recorded. You don't have to speak. But if you choose to, stay calm. And remember, this time, you make the rules. We sat in silence until, at 2:16 p.m., the first call came. Mark, I said as I answered. Mom, where are you? Are you okay? Why aren't you at the facility? What are these letters? This has to be some kind of mistake. I said nothing. Then softly, it's not a mistake. Mom, what are you saying? What debts? You're misunderstanding everything. Do you remember, Mark, when you were 7 and broke the neighbor's window, then blamed the cat? What? I knew you were lying. You always speak just a little louder when you lie. And right now, your voice is exactly the same. He went silent. I could hear his breathing. Fast, shaky, almost breaking. Mom, please, don't do this. You love us. We can fix this. You have 48 hours. And I hung up. Ryan was watching me, silent. I was calm, steady. I just don't believe them anymore. At 3:02 p.m., the phone rang. Svetlana. Mom, are you out of your mind? Do you even understand what you're doing? This is a crime. You can't write things like that. Yes, I replied. I understand perfectly. It's called a response to betrayal. Mom, please, the kids are home. They don't know anything. Do you want to destroy everything? No, Sveta, you already did that. I'm just drawing the line under it. I hung up. My hands didn't shake. That evening, Ryan showed me his laptop screen. Dennis had tried to revoke the power of attorney for the house sale, but it was too late. He'd already called the agency 3 times, raging. Now, he was in full panic. Think he'll call? I asked. Definitely, Ryan said, and at 7:44 p.m., the phone rang. Dennis. I didn't answer. Let him wonder. Let him sweat. Let him feel even a fraction of what I felt when they tried to dump me like old furniture in a care home. Ryan poured some tea. Are you ready if they don't pay? I stared out at the darkening sky. Yes, because now they're the ones afraid, and I'm not. The next morning, the world was oddly still, like even nature was holding its breath. I stirred oatmeal on the stove, the rhythm familiar, comforting. But this wasn't just another morning. I could feel it. Ryan stepped in, holding his phone. It started, he said. Mark had withdrawn $900,000 from a credit card. Instantly, Svetlana emptied both of her children's savings accounts. Dennis transferred client funds into his personal account in Cyprus. I looked at Ryan. They're running, he nodded, but doing it in the worst way. Now, they're not just guilty. They've committed new crimes. Out in the open, on record, I sat on the porch. The wind carried the scent of the autumn forest. And deep inside, I felt no fear. Only clarity, only peace. I knew exactly what I was doing. The phone rang again. Mark, I answered. Mom, please, I get it. I understand. I'll come see you. We can talk. I'll fix everything. Just tell me what you want. I said nothing for a moment, then calmly. You already know. You just don't want to face the cost of your choices? Mom, I'm begging you. Mark's voice cracked. They've started calling. My ex is threatening court. The school knows, the principal found out. I'm finished, Mom. You don't want that for your son. I stayed calm. That was your choice, Mark. The day you decided I was in your way. Then I ended the call. No anger, just clarity. At 12:23 p.m., Svetlana called, but this time she was sobbing. Mom, please forgive me. The school sent a letter. My husband found out. I don't know what to do. They all think I'm a thief. Please, Mom, tell me this is a joke, that you won't send anything else. I listened. 1 minute, then 2. Quietly, I said, do you know how I felt when I realized my children had signed papers to get rid of me? Did you hear the keys click in the lock as I walked out? Did you see the way I looked at the house you grew up in for the last time? Mom, are you crying? She whispered. No, Sveta, I just can't cry anymore. The 48 hours are over. You made your choice. I hung up, and for the first time, I realized I had nothing left to fear. Ryan entered the room with his laptop. Only Dennis left, he said. He'd been silent all morning. I nodded. He was proud. He'd hold out as long as he could. At 2:01 p.m., the call came. Mom, I don't know what those two told you, but you're making the biggest mistake of your life. This can be fixed. You don't know what you've gotten yourself into. I pressed speaker. Ryan sat across from me. I understand, Dennis, I said. You think I'm stupid, that I wouldn't figure it out, that you could ship me off, sell the house, and I'd be too old, too weak, too silent to stop it. But I've got news for you. My voice didn't shake. You're not talking to the silent mother you've always counted on. You're speaking to a woman who finally sees who you really are. He snapped. If you release this, you'll ruin everything. You'll be a laughingstock. You'll destroy us. No, Dennis, I said calmly. You destroyed yourselves. All I'll do is press send. I ended the call. Ryan looked at me. Ready? I nodded. It's time. He clicked the key. Just once, second, third. Within minutes, the file detailing Mark's debts was sent to the local police. Svetlana's money laundering scheme reached the tax authorities. The Bar Association received Dennis's full dossier. Fake clients, misused funds, and copies of their secrets were delivered to the school, the church, and Dennis's law firm. The entire package, photos, scans, voice recordings, went to the top journalist in Minsk. Everything was out. Then, it happened. A headline appeared on Ryan's laptop. 3 adult children tried to declare their mother incompetent to sell her home, but she fought back. Beneath it, a photo of me. Not the tired face they all expected. Not a frail old woman. A clear, firm face. Real. The effect was immediate. Less than an hour later, it spread like a firestorm. Mark was hit first. Ryan showed me security footage. Mark at an ATM, trying to withdraw cash. A minute later, 2 men pulled up. Not the police, the other kind. The ones he owes, Ryan noted. They don't like being ignored. An hour and a half later, Svetlana was arrested at the airport. She'd booked a flight to Georgia, trying to vanish for a vacation. But her name was already flagged. Fraud, tax evasion. With her, investigators found charity documents and donation records that never reached their destination. And Dennis, taken straight from his office, in a suit, in front of colleagues. On video, he yelled, tore papers, shouted at his lawyer. But it was already done. The bar revoked his license. His firm's director stepped out to the press and said, "We're shocked. We had no idea. But now, we do." I stood by the window with a cup of tea, watching the sun disappear behind the trees. And for the first time in what felt like forever, I felt no anger, no panic, no regret, only clarity. Ryan stepped out onto the porch. It's done. All 3 are officially under investigation. I nodded. There may be more, he said. Letters, pleas, threats. But none of it matters anymore. They thought I'd disappear, I said, that they could wipe me away like dust from a shelf. But I was never gone. I was just silent, waiting. The phone rang. Caller ID hidden, I answered. A voice on the other end. Mom? It was Svetlana. Her voice was broken, choked by sobs. Mom, please forgive me. You don't understand what's happening. Our accounts are frozen. The kids were taken to their grandmothers. My husband wants a divorce. You didn't want this, right? I listened, the way she once never listened to me. Svetlana, do you remember saying I don't understand anything anymore? That all old people eventually lose touch with reality? Mom, she started. Now you know what it feels like, to be dismissed, ignored, to have decisions made behind your back, your fate sealed with a signature. We were scared, she said. We had debts. You always helped us. And now, I answered softly, I helped myself. I hung up the phone. 15 minutes later, the landline rang. Dennis, you won, he said, quiet, flat. You destroyed us. You're not going to undo this, are you? I didn't answer. I always thought you were weak, he continued. That I could say, Mom agreed. You never argued, never pushed back. I asked, I trusted, I stayed silent out of love, I said. You stayed silent out of calculation. There's a difference. You ruined our lives. No, Dennis, I simply let the consequences catch up to you. I hung up, calm. Ryan approached. Only Mark remains. I nodded. He won't call. He will. And at 9:07 p.m., the phone buzzed. Mark. His voice was strained, rough. Mom! I'm at the station. My face is a mess. They came for the money. I didn't know what to do. He paused. You're not really going to turn me in completely, are you? I closed my eyes. You already did that. I'm just not shielding you anymore. Mom, I get it now, he said. Just tell me, will you ever forgive me? I spoke honestly. Maybe, but not today. And not tomorrow. Then I ended the call. Outside, darkness settled. The pine trees whispered in the wind, and I sat on the porch, still and clear. I was no longer a mother to be used. I was a woman who survived. The next morning, I woke early. No calls, no arguments, no fear. Just me, a cup of mint tea, and the lake, where the sun shimmered like the sky itself, was grateful I had stopped staying silent. In the kitchen, Ryan washed cups, calm, steady, the man I once saved, who had now saved me. Did you sleep? He asked. Better than I have in 10 years, I answered. He sat beside me. You did it. I nodded. Yes, all of it. But there was no anger left. Not toward Mark, not toward Sveta, not even Dennis. They made their choice, and I made mine. They built their lives on my silence. I simply deleted the silence. Around noon, a journalist arrived, young, maybe 30, with honest eyes and a recorder in hand. May I? He asked gently. Just a voice. No agenda. I told him everything. Calmly. Not in detail, but truthfully. I spoke about how easy it is to be a convenient mother when you never ask for anything, how dangerous it is to be needed only as a signature, how terrifying it is to wake up one day and realize you're not a person to anyone anymore, and how peaceful, how right it feels to finally stop being afraid. After the story went live, comments poured in. Strong woman. This is how it's done. I'm 68. I'm afraid of my kids too. A little less now. I read every word, and I knew I wasn't alone. There were hundreds, thousands, women like me, pushed into corners, covered with quiet like a blanket. But one day, we rise. 3 days later, a letter arrived. Court ruling. Officially, the house was mine again. Accounts unfrozen. All actions declared attempted fraud by third parties. The lead investigator had even written a note by hand. You stunned us. Stay strong. Ryan brought out a box. Your things, he said. Books, photo albums, everything we gathered. You can stay here, as long as you want. I looked at the house, the lake, and at myself, not the woman who once rode in silence in a black car, believing she'd been discarded, but the one who returned. I knew then I didn't want to live among shadows anymore. Not in my old house, not inside an old identity. I wanted to live again. Thank you, I said, but it's time I go. Where? Ryan asked. I smiled. Wherever I want. He handed me the keys. The car was waiting by the gate, black, like before. But this time, I wasn't a passenger. I was the driver. I slid behind the wheel, closed the door, started the engine, and drove. Slowly, steadily. My name is Lyudmila Alexeyevna. I'm 75 years old. I no longer have children, but I have a life, and I've never been this free. Thank you for staying with me until the very end. If this story touched you, leave a like, share your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever faced something like this? What would you have done in her place? It helps us grow and gives us strength to create more stories like this. Thank you for listening. Stay well, live long, and live fully.